Are you enjoying this conversation with Mark Nepo on Praying at the Speed of Love, episode 23? We are talking about this new book, Drinking from the River of Light, The Life of Expression, and so much more, because that's what we do on Praying at the Speed of Love. We are interested in hearing about your new book, but we always want to go, yeah, let's go a little deeper, a little deeper, a little deeper. Well, in this book, Mark Nepo goes deeper because he is talking about his life, his creative life, his writing life, his spiritual life, the life of expression. But of course, at the same time, he's always talking about our lives, our creative lives, our life of expression. So there's an excerpt here that I really think you'd love to hear. He's talking about what it means to see. And he starts with an opening quote from Georgia O'Keeffe. And you know how she could see flowers, right? Georgia O'Keeffe says, "To see takes time, like to have a friend takes time." Well, Mark Nepo's been our friend for 20 years. The Book of Awakening came out 20 years ago. And it's taking us time to really enter into a friendship, because that's what his books, his teachings, his events, his appearances with Oprah, all of that is about welcoming us to sit, open our hearts, listen, look, see. What it means to see. He opens by saying, "I was born a seer." S-E-E-R, someone who sees. Early on, words became the brushes with which I tried to paint what I saw. In time, I learned that while art is movement through space and time, and music is movement through time, poetry is both. And each of us is born with an inclination towards seeing or hearing. I was born a painter and a sculptor in a poet's body. Now, before I get to the part I want to read to you, doesn't this make you stop and think, well, was I born with a stronger inclination to see or to hear? There's a question to take into deep soul writing. And maybe what we do is simply notice in a day, a week, am I opened by looking? When I look, do I see beyond, deeper into the surface? Am I moved more, open, more expanded, more by what I hear? I would have started out, I think, initially saying that I was a seer simply because my eyes are engaged at all times really in reading. I read a massive amount, and then I'm doing deep soul writing and my eyes are on the page. But I think what happened to me is that once you activate that clairvoyance, and you sort of begin to see what that is, or clairsentience, clear feeling, or clairaudience, whatever that sort of leading edge, mystical threshold is, my experience has been that they then start expanding and expanding and expanding. So, okay, he is a painter and a sculptor in a poet's body. Well, I write, but at this point, I'm writing music and creating ceremonies. And yes, I use words to share all this, but it's not limited to that one clairvoyance. For me, clairvoyance, clairaudience, and clairsentience are all claircognizance, knowing. Ask yourself that. Were you born with an inclination towards seeing or hearing? Here's what he has to say about seeing. What then does it mean to see? It is how we apprehend reality, how we take in life. An old English proverb says, the eyes are the window to the soul. The other side of this truth is that the soul is the window to the world. In fact, our capacity to see is more of an inlet, a place of exchange, letting the waters of the world in while letting the waters of the soul out. More than anything, seeing is about receiving. The way early photographs would receive images from the world, and in the dark, they would slowly develop. This is why stillness and quiet allow what we see and receive to develop within us into patterns of insight and understanding. And now you can understand Georgia O'Keeffe's It Takes Time. It takes time for all of this to cook inside of you. And then his closing sentence is, and reflection and expression through writing is a timeless way of developing what we see and receive. I could give a big amen to that. Reflection and expression through writing is a timeless way of developing what we see and receive. Now, this picture, you see the river? It looks like the Hudson River Valley to me, right about where it curls around West Point. I'm not sure that that's what this is a picture of, but I've got the Hudson River Valley on the brain. So I took one look at this cover and went, oh, look, it's the Hudson. You know where I'm going, right? But what it is, if we could get to this lower half, and this is true in New York, is it's a delta. It's a delta. And that means you're a delta, right? If you're this inlet where the salt water of the world merges with the fresh water of your soul through your eyes, right? It makes you a delta. And a delta is the richest biological, wow, this is where it all happens. Think of the Nile River Delta, the Mississippi Delta, right? I forgot the name of the river is it the Sacramento? But we used to take the boat up the delta without my ever really thinking about what does that word mean. But it's a very deep mystical word. And now you know that your eyes are the delta between you and the world. You're going to love this conversation. It's janetconnor.com/23, episode 23. Mark Nepo, drinking from the river of light. Be sure and get your gift.